Ninja headband. The NBA officially pulled the plug on these tied-up fabric strips right before the 2019 to 2020 season. These weren't your usual stretchy headbands. They were manually tied, kind of like a sash, and had loose ends dangling down. Players loved them for style, not just sweat, but the league was not feeling the Ninja vibes. Guys like Jimmy Butler, Drew Holiday, Jarrett Allen, Montrezl Harrell, and Karl Anthony Towns brought the look to the floor, with Mike Scott even speaking out after the ban. He said he was told they looked too unprofessional. That word kept popping up, even though the league didn't put it front and center in their official reasoning. Instead, the NBA leaned hard into safety concerns. They claimed the way the headbands were tied created risks, like a knot getting grabbed during play or the fabric coming loose and causing a fall. They also didn't like the lack of consistency. Different players were wearing them in different sizes, shapes, and tying methods. So the NBA said they hadn't been approved through the uniform process and slapped the ban on. The interesting part, players had already been wearing them the season before, but instead of pulling them mid-season, the league waited. They told teams in May and made it official in September. That delay made some people question how dangerous the headbands really were. Critics pointed out that it might have just been the league policing player image again, something they've done before with chains, goggles, and even upside-down headbands. There was no public incident, no fall, no tangle, just a sudden decision and a whole lot of speculation. The NBA has hinted that if a standardized version existed, they'd consider it, but that's never happened. So for now, the Ninja look is benched. No loose ends, literally or figuratively. A PL sneaker. Back in 2010, the NBA dropped the hammer on a pair of basketball shoes that hadn't even made it to tip-off. The APL Concept 1, built by twin brothers Adam and Ryan Goldston, had one feature that got the league's attention fast: a spring-loaded system in the forefoot, designed to increase a player's vertical leap. They called it load and launch, and it wasn't subtle. According to APL, the system compressed under pressure and then rebounded, allegedly giving players a boost of up to 3.5 inches on their jump. That made the Concept 1 heavier and more complex than normal shoes, but the promise was right there: instant bounce. The league didn't like that promise. They announced the ban in October, right before the 2010 to 2011 season started. The reasoning? The shoes gave a performance advantage that was considered unfair under league rules. And just like that, the sneakers were out before they were ever really in. No major player wore them in a regular season game. Still, the ban turned into a marketing goldmine. The whole ban by the NBA line became APL's calling card, and it definitely helped fuel demand. What's interesting is that the ban was based on the idea of competitive balance. There's no specific NBA rulebook entry about spring-based shoes, but the league made it clear: if tech gives players a physical edge, it can be disqualified. APL kept innovating, launching newer models like Concept X and Super Future with carbon fiber and other enhancements that might have pushed limits without crossing the same line. Whether those would pass the league's sniff test is still a mystery. In 2024, they even dropped a special capsule with the band design in a flashy metallic colorway. APL never backed off that original identity. The only brand that made the league nervous enough to shut it down before it got started. Laser pointers. The NBA's fan code of conduct has made it crystal clear. Laser pointers and anything similar are not welcome in arenas. They're grouped with things like optical illusions or devices that can mess with players' vision. Fans caught using them get tossed out, and in some cases, banned. The league leaves the list open-ended too, meaning they can clamp down on any new gadget that pops up if it causes problems. The logic behind the rule is actually pretty simple. Shining a laser into someone's eyes is dangerous and incredibly distracting, especially for players trying to shoot. Even low-powered lasers can cause temporary vision issues, so the ban's there to protect players and make sure fans aren't turning games into science fairs. The most well-known example happened in January of 2016. James Harden was at the free throw line in Salt Lake City when a fan tried shining a laser into his eyes. The first time, Harden thought it was just a camera flash. The second time, the referee caught it. Harden later called it disrespectful, saying nobody would want to be hit with a laser in the face. And honestly, he had a point. Arena security acted fast. The fan was ejected during the game and later hit with a 1-year ban from every NBA arena. That was the league's way of saying they weren't messing around. Harden spoke about it publicly afterward, and the whole thing got a ton of media coverage. The rule itself doesn't just ban using lasers during shots, it bans even having them in the building. The NBA's taking the prevention angle seriously, and this kind of enforcement isn't unique. Other sports leagues around the world have had to deal with laser pointer problems, and most have adopted bans of their own. Bottom line, bringing lasers into games is a one-way ticket to getting kicked out. And the NBA's not shy about handing out bans. Supreme sleeves. Back in December of 2017, Kelly Oubre stepped onto the court with a Supreme X Nike compression sleeve stretched across his leg. It had the bold, red Supreme logo front and center, along with Nike and NBA logos, and that combination ended up stirring more trouble than expected. During halftime of that same game, Kelly was told by his team to take it off. He later said he was confused, especially since the sleeve had the official Nike and NBA logos. From his perspective, it seemed like a legitimate piece of league-approved gear, but the league saw things differently. The issue? Branding. The NBA has strict rules around uniform accessories, and while the full rulebook isn't public, it's well known that players can't wear items with non-approved commercial logo. The Supreme branding was likely viewed as unauthorized advertising, something the league keeps a tight grip on. Even if Nike and the NBA logos were there, Supreme hadn't cleared that final hurdle with the league. It's also about consistency. The NBA enforces accessory standards, not just for logos, but also for color, size, placement, and design. Something like a Supreme sleeve might have stood out too much, and when Kelly joked that it was too wavy, he might not have been that far off. No public fine was ever issued, and there's no official document listing a formal ban, but the sleeve hasn't been seen in action since. Media outlets and banned accessory lists continue to reference the moment as a clear example of the NBA stepping in when a look crosses the line. This wasn't a one-off either. Around the same time, the NBA told J.R. Smith to cover his Supreme tattoo or face fines, again citing visible corporate branding. So while the word ban might be a bit soft around the edges here, the message was obvious. No extra logos on gear, no matter how trendy it looks. Tinted goggles. The NBA's stance on these dark-lensed accessories goes back to a very specific moment. D. Wade's attempt to wear them during a game in January of 2011. Wade, who dealt with migraines and sensitivity to arena lighting, tried to wear goggles with a darker tint. But before the game even tipped off, the league stepped in and said no. The reason? The NBA determined that the goggles were too dark and gave Wade an unfair advantage. The logic was based on visual transparency. The darker the lens, the harder it is for defenders to read where a player's eyes are going. In basketball, being able to see a ball handler's eyes matters. It helps defenders anticipate passes, spot cuts, and adjust their spacing. So if a player's eyes are hidden behind a shaded lens, that tool disappears. After the league rejected the dark goggles, Wade was allowed to switch to a lighter tinted version that passed inspection. He ended up playing with them, and while he scored well early in the game, his free throw shooting dipped. Still, the Gogglegate moment stuck, and it shaped how the NBA treats tinted eyewear. Since then, any goggles with significant tint have effectively been treated as banned. The exact standards aren't public. The league hasn't released a rule listing specific tint levels or testing methods, but the precedent is clear. If the tint obscures eye visibility, it's likely getting rejected. This isn't a blanket ban on goggles. Plenty of players have worn clear or lightly tinted protective eyewear for injuries or medical reasons. The issue comes down to how dark the lens is and whether it blocks that line of sight for defenders. So while Wade's goggles were medically motivated, the league decided that even legitimate reasons don't outweigh what they consider a competitive edge. In the NBA's eyes, if your opponents can't see your eyes, you're crossing the line. Explicit clothing. While players get most of the spotlight when it comes to banned gear, fans aren't exactly off the hook either. The NBA's Fan Code of Conduct clearly bans any clothing, signs, or garments with profanity, explicit language, or anything considered obscene or derogatory. And yes, this applies to t-shirts, hoodies, and even those homemade signs people love waving during free throws. The rules give arenas full authority to eject anyone who breaks them. No refund, no second chances. That includes shirts with curse words, aggressive slogans, or insults aimed at players, coaches, or staff. The league specifically calls out obscene or indecent messages, and violation can lead to ticket revocation or bans from future games. One of the more documented cases happened in February of 2025 during a Mavericks game against the King. A few fans were ejected, and while one was kicked out for behavior, another was removed because of their shirt. The Mavericks statement made it clear the shirt broke the rule on garments with explicit or derogatory content. This time though, all the shirt said was "Fire Nico." It's worth noting that these policies aren't enforced with the same public drama as player bans. A lot of times, fans are just quietly asked to cover up or leave. There's no extensive list of past violators or press coverage every time someone walks in with a shirt that crosses the line. Most of it stays local, handled by arena security without much media attention. Still, the rule stands. Show up to an NBA game wearing something with swearing or a loaded message, and there's a decent chance you'll be watching the rest of the night from the parking lot. The league wants the focus on the court, not on someone's shirt in the third row. Upside down headbands, Back in 2010, the NBA decided it had enough of players flipping their headbands upside down and folded it into the dress code like it was a major scandal. The headbands in question weren't some new accessory. They were the regular NBA-issued ones, just worn with the logo flipped. Nothing changed about the material, the size, or the function. The only difference? The logo was upside down. The league's problem with it was all about branding and visual consistency. When the NBA puts its logo on something, it expects it to be seen right side up, not rotated as part of a player's personal fashion statement. So when players like Rajon Rondo started rocking the upside down look, it didn't sit well with league officials. Rondo was the poster child for it, showing up with the logo flipped and off center. It was subtle, but the league saw it as a quiet pushback against uniform conformity. Media reports at the time said the ban became official in October of 2010. From that point on, the league required headbands to be worn the correct way, with the NBA logo upright. There was no public tantrum or massive fine, but the message was loud enough. Don't mess with the uniform, even by turning something upside down. The league likely viewed it as a slippery slope. Today it's a flipped headband. Tomorrow it's players redrawing logos with glitter mark. So to avoid a cascade of low-level uniform rebellion, they shut it down early. Since the ban, no player has made a major public stand to bring the look back. There have been some low-key fan theories and rumors about players sneaking the look in during warm-ups, but nothing confirmed. The league's uniform police probably catch it before it becomes noticeable. In the end, this was one of those small style moves that got clipped before it turned into a bigger trend: flags and banners. If you're planning to walk into an NBA game waving your team's flag like you're planting it on the moon, you might want to read the fine print. Nearly every NBA arena and the league itself has strict rules about flags, banners, and sign. The general theme: keep it small, keep it safe, and definitely keep it clean. The league's fan code of conduct bans flags and banners over 11 by 17 inches if they're attached to poles or sticks. There's a small exception for team-provided placards up to 14 by 22 inches, but even those can't be mounted on anything. So if you're thinking of hoisting a flag on a telescoping rod, forget it. This isn't just a league-wide suggestion. Arenas have detailed policies that echo the same rules. Capital One Arena, no poles, nothing commercial, and definitely no obscene language. Ball Arena, same. No oversized items, no third-party branding, and only specific team flags bought in the arena store are allowed. Delta Center, State Farm Arena, Xfinity Mobile Arena, Frost Bank Center. They all say nearly the same thing: keep it under the size limit, keep it respectful, and no sticks. Safety is a huge part of the reason. A flagpole in a packed crowd isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. There's also a visibility issue. Flags can block sponsor signage or even other fans' views of the court. And then there's the content: no profanity, political slogans, or anything deemed offensive. Arena staff have the final say and can remove anything they think crosses the line. None of this means flags are totally banned. A small team flag held in your hands, no pole, no foul language, nothing controversial, probably flies under the radar, but show up with something oversized or message loaded, and security might shut it down before tip-off. Custom Band-Aids. In 2009, D. Wade kicked off one of the NBA's more random fashion controversies when he showed up to games with a Band-Aid under his eye. Not just any bandage, but one with his name printed on it. At first, it seemed harmless. After all, he'd recently taken a shot to the face, and wearing a bandage wasn't exactly headline news, but the league didn't like what came next. Wade's Band-Aid wasn't just covering a cut. It became a full-on style move. Some versions had his name. Others had slogans or personal design. That's when the NBA stepped in. League spokesman Tim Frank made the policy clear. Players could wear Band-Aids for health reasons, but not with names or any kind of personal branding. No logos, no slogans, no exceptions. The NBA wasn't about to let a sticky strip turn into a billboard. The logic was all about presentation. The league controls what players wear on the court: uniforms, logos, even sock length. If they let personalized Band-Aids slide, it could open the door to all kinds of unauthorized branding. Imagine players slapping on bandages with sneaker logos, clothing brands, or their Instagram handles. It would have turned post-injury treatment into marketing real estate. So while Wade didn't get fined or penalized publicly, the message was clear. Decorative Band-Aids were out. Functional medical ones still allowed, but only if they're plain and logo-free. That unofficial but well-understood ban has stuck ever since. You won't find a rulebook section spelling it out word for word, but the policy lives through precedent. Media outlets still list custom Band-Aids as one of the NBA's banned accessories, and no player has really tested the rule since. The league shut it down early before it could become a full-on trend. Wade might have started it, but the NBA made sure he'd be the last. Footwear violations. Over the years, the NBA has treated sneakers like part of the uniform, not just fashion statements. And while players have way more freedom today, there's a long trail of shoes that crossed the line, got flagged, or flat out banned. The earliest and most iconic example is Michael Jordan's Air Jordan 1 in the black and red bread colorway. The league said the shoe didn't match the Bulls uniform, too little white, and cracked down. Nike spun it into marketing gold, but the league's message was about uniformity, not hype. Carmelo Anthony had issues with his Jordan Mellow M10s, not because of color or performance, but because of a shiny chrome heel. The glare was considered a safety and distraction risk, so the shoe had to be redesigned mid-season. Steph Curry caught attention when some of his Under Armour customs displayed logos or third-party graphics not cleared by the league. It wasn't a tech issue, just branding the league didn't approve. Same with Karl Anthony Towns' Stranger Things hyper. The league flagged the theme design as unauthorized. Josh Smith ran into trouble in Atlanta for wearing Adidas Top 10 2000s with pink and teal, colors that clashed with the Hawks uniform. He got a warning. That kind of color mismatch used to matter a lot more. Since 2018, the league has allowed players to wear any color sneaker, loosening those color rules. But safety, branding, and performance enhancement rules still stand. You can wear neon green kicks, but if your shoe turns into a trampoline or an ad space, expect a call from the league off gold chains. Back in the 1970s, it wasn't unusual to see NBA players hitting the court with necklaces swinging. Guys like Daryl Dawkins brought real flair to the floor, wearing gold chains, crosses, and even custom pendants like Sir Slam or Dr. Dunk. It was part style, part identity. But in 1980, the league decided the chains had to go. The reasoning was straightforward: safety. Chains could snag, snap, or scratch. In a game that's full of contact, wearing a metal loop around your neck was a recipe for injury to the player or someone else. Pendants swinging around in traffic, not ideal. The NBA didn't wait for a serious accident, they just shut it down. Once the ban hit, chains disappeared from the court. Players could still wear them off the court, of course, and many did. But during games, they became a no-go. That rule is still in place. It's one of the earliest accessory bans the league ever made, and it set the tone for what came later. The crackdown wasn't just about safety. It also tied into the league's push for a cleaner, more uniform look. Chains were flashy, sometimes oversized, and didn't fit the image the NBA was trying to present. Over time, the league's approach to attire got stricter, especially during David Stern's tenure. By 2005, the off-court dress code even banned visible chains. During media appearances and team events, that stirred up controversy, with critics saying it targeted streetwear culture. Still, the policy stood. Players now rock jewelry in the tunnel, on the runway, or at post-game pressers, just not when the clock's running. The gold chain era ended before the 80s really got rolling, and it stayed that way ever since. Drones. The NBA doesn't mess around when it comes to flying gadgets, and drones are right at the top of the banned list. The league's official code of conduct makes it crystal clear. Fans cannot bring drones into arenas, period. That includes anything remote-controlled, airborne, or otherwise buzzing around the rafters. You'll find the same rule echoed across NBA venues: State Farm Arena, Barclays Center, Frostbank Center. They all ban drones outright. No toy copters, no selfie drone, no flying anything. And it's not just about being a nuisance. The ban is grounded in safety, legal risk, and plain old common sense. There's already precedent. In October 2024, at a Celtics watch party in Boston, a drone operated by a CNN staffer crashed into the crowd. A few fans were cut and bleeding, and emergency services had to respond. That wasn't even inside an arena, just a public plaza, but it proved exactly why flying metal machines don't mix well with dense crowds. Even professional use can be sketchy. TNT flew a drone inside during a playoff game between the Celtics and Sixers in 2023. It was supposed to capture cinematic aerial shots, but fans hated it. The drone hovered awkwardly, got caught on camera, and distracted from the game. Viewers called it clunky and pointless. The backlash showed that even in controlled environments, drones can be a visual and technical headache. Beyond that, drones come with FAA regulation. Flying them over people or indoors is heavily restricted. If someone loses control, the league could be facing lawsuits, not just fan complaints. There's also the privacy issue. No one wants to be filmed from above in the middle of a game. So whether it's safety, legal exposure, or just not wanting an accidental hair trim from a quadcopter, the NBA's message is the same: leave the drones at home. Carbon fiber masks. In 2014, LeBron James stepped on the court wearing a sleek, black carbon fiber face mask after breaking his nose. And it didn't take long for the NBA to step in. While the mask looked like something out of a superhero movie, the league didn't love the aesthetic. They asked him to swap it for a clear version, and he did. That one moment basically ended the black mask era in the NBA. The league never published a formal rule saying no black masks, but the message was loud enough. The concern wasn't just about the look, though that definitely played a part. The main issue was eye visibility. If a mask is dark or opaque, it can obscure a player's eyes, making it harder for defenders or officials to read their gaze. That kind of visual concealment touches on competitive balance, just like with tinted goggles or dark visors. It also ties into the league's obsession with presentation. A black mask on national TV draws attention, maybe too much. And if one guy wears a dark carbon fiber mask, what stops the next player from rolling out in a full opaque shield? The NBA prefers to close that door before it opens. There's no public evidence that LeBron was fined. He was just asked to make the change. But since then, the league's preference for clear masks has been the unspoken standard. That said, the policy lives in precedent, not print. There's no publicly posted line about brightness levels, light transmission, or specific materials being banned. Still, no one's worn a black carbon fiber mask in a regular season game since. And while the league hasn't outright banned the material, anything that hides the face or eyes is going to be flagged. So if you see a mask on the court today, it's going to be clear, even if the player wearing it misses the drama of looking like Batman. Beach ball. The NBA doesn't mess around when it comes to inflatable distractions. Beach balls are flat out banned under the league's code of conduct. They're grouped in with things like poles and selfie sticks. Basically, anything that can be thrown and cause a scene. If security spots one, it's gone. No questions, no bounce, no fun. Most arenas follow suit with their own lists. Denver's Ball Arena bans inflatables across the board. Beach balls, clappers, balloons. All of it. The Delta Center in Utah labels them as projectile, right alongside Frisbees. Atlanta's State Farm Arena says no to anything remotely throwable, from bats to clubs to beach ball. In Detroit, Little Caesars Arena spells it out crystal clear. Beach balls or other inflatables are not getting through the door. Even Barclays Center in Brooklyn makes it a point to call out balloons and beach balls specifically. Now, the reasons? Pretty straightforward. First, these things are distraction. One beach ball bouncing into the court at the wrong moment could completely disrupt the game. Even drifting in the air, they can mess with players' focus or distract refs. Second, there's the safety angle. One bounce into the wrong spot and someone could trip or fall. Not to mention, beach balls flying into expensive gear or camera setups, not exactly ideal. They're also labeled as projectiles in most policies. Sounds dramatic, but it's not that far off. If you toss one hard enough, especially a fully inflated one, it's not all that innocent anymore. And they can block the view for fans or even cover up ads and messages around the arena. Not great for business. So instead of picking and choosing which inflatable's okay, arenas just shut it all down. It's simpler that way. There aren't many stories of people getting thrown out over a beach ball, but technically, if you bring one in, security has every right to toss you or it out. Do-rag. The NBA has a complicated history with this accessory. Back in the year 2000, Sam Perkins wore one during a preseason game and the league stepped in fast. Officials claimed it posed a potential safety hazard and told him to take it off. That's the first real moment where the do-rag entered NBA controversy, and it didn't exactly get smoother from there. Fast forward to 2005, and the league dropped its first ever dress code under Commissioner David Stern. Do-rags were officially banned for any NBA business setting. That means team arrivals, press conferences, bench appearances. None of it was safe territory for a do-rag, along with hats, giant chains, and certain t-shirts. Do-rags got flagged as unacceptable. The reasoning? Image control. After the infamous brawl in Detroit the year before, the league wanted players to look more professional. Critics jumped on it. A lot of players and fans felt like the ban unfairly targeted black culture and hip-hop fashion. Some called it respectability politics in disguise. Even though Commissioner Adam Silver later relaxed parts of the dress code, the original ban on do-rags has never officially been lifted. The league's stated reason was safety. Loose straps or ends could get caught during play or become a distraction. But considering the dress code was aimed at public appearances, not gameplay, that explanation felt thin. Really, it was about optics, making sure players fit a certain corporate-friendly image. And while there hasn't been another high-profile case like Perkins, the rule technically still stands. No documented cases have popped up in recent years, but the policy's never been reversed. There's some gray area now, especially with evolving styles and a more relaxed league vibe. But officially, do-rags remain banned in NBA business settings. So even if a player wanted to wear one today, it'd still be off limits. Whistles. These things are officially on the NBA's no-go list when it comes to fan items. The league's code of conduct spells it out clearly. Whistles, foghorn, air horns, plastic horns, even vuvuzelas, all banned. The logic's not subtle here. Arenas want no confusion, no chaos, and definitely no random fan pretending they're the ref. Plenty of arenas echo the league's stance. The Delta Center bans noise-making devices, and yes, whistles are called out directly. Barclays Center, same deal. Capital One Arena allows one exception, birdie alarms for personal safety. But if you try to sneak in a regular whistle, you're not getting far. Xfinity Mobile Arena lists whistles right alongside foghorns and air horns as things that aren't allowed through security. So yeah, the message is consistent across the board. The reason's actually pretty simple. Whistles mess with the game. If a player hears one and thinks it's coming from a ref, they might freeze, pause, or change direction. That's not just annoying. It can literally change the outcome of a play. In a fast-paced game, 1 second of hesitation can flip the score. It's not just about noise, it's about misdirection. A perfect example? Game 3 of the Lakers vs. Timberwolves series in April of 2025. A whistle from the crowd caused Luka to stop mid-play, thinking the action had been blown dead. That hesitation led to a turnover. Afterward, the arena announcer warned fans that anyone caught with a whistle would be tossed. Jordan Goodwin even confirmed he heard multiple whistles during the half. This isn't hypothetical. When fans bring in stuff like that, it affects gameplay, messes with competitive integrity, and makes it harder for refs to control the flow. The NBA's not about to let fans blow their own fouls. That's why this rule's not just about volume, it's about keeping the game clean and under control. Tripods. These things are banned across the board at NBA arenas, and the rule's not exactly up for debate. The league includes them in the official code of conduct, right alongside selfie sticks, monopods, and poles. Any of those items, including tripods, have to be confiscated if found at entry. You bring one in, you're either leaving it behind or turning around. Arena policies double down on this. Capital One Arena bans tripods and monopod without blinking. Barclays Center in Brooklyn lists them with professional camera gear that fans aren't allowed to use. State Farm Arena in Atlanta throws them in with poles and other throwable items. Even the Xfinity Mobile Arena says no to anything telescopic, tripods included. Ball Arena in Denver includes tripods with other camera gear that could pose hazard, and Gamebridge Fieldhouse straight up calls them a tripping risk. So why the ban? First off, obstruction. Tripods take up space and can block views or crowd walkways. You set one up in the middle of a row, and good luck to anyone trying to get past you without losing a shin. Second, they're rigid. Trip over one or get jabbed by a leg sticking out, and you've got a problem. Safety matters when you've got thousands of people packed into tight rows. There's also the recording issue. Tripods usually mean someone's trying to record at a higher level, and that crosses into territory the NBA doesn't allow. Unauthorized filming disrupts media rights and gets messy fast. Banning tripods helps shut that down. And really, security doesn't have time to sort through different tripod types and sizes. A flat-out ban is easier for everyone to enforce. Fans still try to sneak them in sometimes, but they're not getting far. Even smaller gear that looks like a tripod can raise flags. In NBA games, the rule's clear. Tripods are out. Every arena seems to agree. And honestly, it's one of the least argued bans around. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.